Hello and welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Hope you're doing well. Today we are going to be jumping into an Enicar Ultrasonic from 1967. Enicar is not a watch brand that has been covered enough on Life on the Wrist. Selfishly, the research of these watches is fairly limited if one compares it to other watch brands of a similar era. If you compare it to a brand that we cover quite extensively, Granges, it really pales in comparison. But hopefully this will be the start of documenting the history of an interesting and important watch brand. So who is Enicar? Enicar was founded in 1913 by Ariste Racine, who reversed her surname and established the brand Enicar. The Racine family was known for watchmaking prior to 1913 and was based in Granges, Switzerland. Ariste Racine produced high-quality timepieces for European soldiers and railway crew during World War I. In 1930, the company set up a new factory in Bienne and began producing automatic, waterproof watches that became a huge success for the brand. They also ventured into producing divette, and mini dive watches known as the Sherpa series, which is what Enicar really cut its teeth with. The Sherpa line of watches became a staple for the brand, and they ended up designing Sherpa jet watches that were designated by the U.S. Air Force during World War II. This tool-natured watch expanded to more aviation pieces, as well as mountaineering pieces. Most famously, in 1956, the Swiss expedition to summit Mount Everest and the Himalayan ranges was underway, and one of the members, Ariste Racine, wore an Enicar and credited the watch for its exceptional precision in extreme weather conditions. Additionally, the watch launched the waterproof ultrasonic dive watch known as the Sea Pearl shortly thereafter. Before we go into the specific watch we are looking at today, another interesting fact about Enicar Ultrasonic Sherpas is that it was installed on the rudder of the Mayflower II, the replica of the 17th century Mayflower, and went on a 50-day Atlantic voyage keeping excellent time, and was credited by Captain Alan Villers. While this has very little significance of any sort of merit, it certainly shows the world what Enicar was capable of producing, and likely helped the brand through their additional research they did about their watches. Enicar's story continues, but we'll save that for a later time. The Enicar we have today is one of the ultrasonic models, and I think the first question that comes to mind is, what is ultrasonic referring to? Well, in the 1950s, competition between brands was extremely high and meant that innovation had to really lead the way for many brands. Enicar implemented a new process at their production facilities in 1953 called ultrasonic cleaning. The process included using ultrasonic sound waves to agitate the fluid, which would in turn produce ultrasonic waves and vibrations that created bubbles. The effect of agitating the fluid was to more thoroughly clean the movement of the watch. Enicar also stated that it preserved the oils of the movement for longer, and would mean that the time between servicing could be extended. This appears on the dial of a watch. Disappearing on the dial of a watch that was a clear attempt of Enicar to really market their watches as being more reliable and on the cutting edge of watchmaking. This specific ultrasonic was manufactured in 1967. This is not part of the Sherpa line. As you can see, there's nothing on the dial to indicate that. What's really cool is the watch has a gold-plated duraluminum case that has some signs of wear. You can see some of the, especially on the backside of the lugs, you can see some of the gold plating coming off, and you can also see a little bit of a tick here on the top lug. but it's overall in fairly good condition. What's really cool is the base metal of this, which I mentioned was duraluminum. Duraluminum is a strong, hard, and lightweight alloy of aluminium, which is widely used in aircraft construction and was discovered in 1906. The 35mm case on the wrist, or just holding it in your hands, you can definitely feel the lightweight nature of this material. Additionally, the gold plating has sort of a lighter color compared to other examples that have this sort of gold plating. And again, 35mm case sits quite nicely on my wrist, but you really do feel the lightweight nature of this piece, and I think that actually is advantageous for this watch. As I mentioned, the watch is quite large. It sits quite flat on the wrist with moderately sized lugs. They don't angle too steeply towards the wrist either, so they really do sit. The case really sits quite kind of true to 35mm size. Maybe it feels a little bit larger. The dial is really, really, really beautiful. It has this wonderful sunburst guilloché finishing, and I think the sunburst pattern is extremely attractive and gives a rather simple watch a bit of depth and texture. If you really stripped away the guilloché finishing, what you really would just have is a time-only subsidiary seconds watch with applied hour markers. But I think the guilloché finishing adds another dimension to this piece. The subsidiary seconds at 6 o'clock also has a circular pattern to it, so if one looks closely, the pattern sort of provides a bit of contrast compared to the guilloché pattern that you see on the rest of the dial. The watch has applied hour markers, which I think is quite nice. I like the font of the 3, 9, and 12 hour markers. I think it's quite an attractive look. The watch runs on the Menuine caliber AR 1292 movement. The movement is a real workhorse movement with quite minimal finishing if you take a look at it. As always, I'll take a moment to say I encourage you to check out the first link of the description of this video, where you can actually see more pictures of this specific piece, and you'll be able to see the inside case back and movement of this watch, so you can understand sort of the level of finishing that this movement had. The bridge that suspends the balance wheel is stamped with the import code EZR, which was the import code used by Enicar to import movements to the USA. Brands during this period would import movements to the USA instead of a completed watch to reduce their tax and duty burden. Interestingly, this kind of contrasts with the caseback. So if you look at this side of the watch, you'll see that it says made and cased in Switzerland. It's possible that this entire watch was cased in Switzerland, but research on this conflicting information is fairly limited, so we don't know if the movement came to the US and then was met up with the case, or if this watch was actually cased completely in Switzerland and then imported to the USA. If you look at the caseback markings again, I think the caseback really is another example of how Enicar was really focusing on marketing their brand to consumers. Along with the Enicar name and stainless steel back to describe the material of the case back, one will see anti-magnetic at the top of the case. You'll also see made in case in Switzerland, which you see on the right side, and then duraluminum and the model number at 6 o'clock here. The first 3 inscriptions are all distinguishing accolades of the brand and model, and I think that is another way that they were really trying to market their watch, as well with the ultrasonic that you see on the dial. If you remove the case back, there's only one stamp, which is Enicar Watch Case Co. and Swiss made on the inside of this case back, so not a whole lot of details can be gleaned from that. As I mentioned, this watch is super light on the wrist. I think it fits quite nicely, and for me, obviously I'm a vintage watch enthusiast. I wear thinner watches for the most part. Sorry about the focus here. Get a better wrist shot for you. But I wear, vintage watches of smaller dimensions. But I actually think this 35mm watch fits quite nicely on my wrist. It's very, very lightweight. You almost feel like you aren't even wearing it, which I think is quite an attractive quality for this piece. For a time-only piece, Enicar was really trying to showcase all that the brand could offer potential customers. The technology in the watch was innovative, and the lightweight watch with really beautiful finished dial would have been in really high demand, and I can totally see why consumers would gravitate towards buying an Enicar Ultrasonic. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this incredible Enicar Ultrasonic from 1967. It is such an interesting sort of side of watch collecting when you think about it. Is these brands were really trying to innovate as much as possible, and the real reason was they were trying to attract potential buyers. And I think Enicar, with the ultrasonic cleaning that they did, as well as some of the things that you see on the case back of this watch, were really trying to distinguish themselves compared to other watch brands and showcase consumers why they should purchase something like this Enicar Ultrasonic. I think the Guilloché dial in itself is a reason to buy this specific watch in 1967. Incredibly beautiful, incredibly the depth that it gives on the wrist is, I think, really nice, and I absolutely love it. I know Guilloché is not something that everyone enjoys, but I really do enjoy seeing it on watches, especially when it comes to sort of time-only pieces like this Enicar. So really was fun sort of jumping into the first Enicar for life on the wrist, and I hope that we can cover some more in the coming months. As always, there will be a article that we wrote about this specific watch on lifeonthewrist.com. It will be the first link in the description of this video, so if you want to see more pictures of this watch, read about the piece, and also see some of the pictures of the movement in the inside case back, I encourage you to go to that link. As I said, it will be the first link in the description, or you can just go to the editorial section of lifeonthewrist.com. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about this Enicar. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and if you are new to Life on the Wrist, be sure to subscribe to the channel and share this video with a friend who might be interested in watches. If you wouldn't mind liking this video, it really does help the channel out. And with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time.